This episode of A Pair of Bookends is sponsored by Stained Paper Creations. They create bespoke vintage style bookmarks and prints. One of our lucky listeners will have the chance to win a selection of bookmarks. All you need to do is to leave us a screenshot of your review of our podcast with your Insta handle. DM us at A Pair of Bookends Pod and you will be within your chance to win.
Welcome to A Pair of Bookends, the book club you can carry anywhere. We are your hosts and hopefully your new bookish pals. I'm Hannah MacDonald.
And I'm Lydia Clare.
Today we have a special little treat for all you bookends. Following the recent Women's Prize long list announcement, we thought we'd have a little chat about the amazing books on the list and maybe even tease you with a few cheeky predictions. So, the books on this year's list are
Build Your House Around My Body by Violet Cooper-Smith,
Careless by Kirsty Capes,
Creatures of Passage by Maroa Yejide,
Flamingo by Rachel Elliott,
Great Circle by Maggie Shipstead,
Remote Sympathy by Catherine Chidgey,
Salt Lick by Lulu Allison,
Sorrow and Bliss by Meg Mason,
The Book of Form and Emptiness by Ruth Ozeki,
The Bread the Devil Need by Lisa Allen-Agostini,
The Exhibitionist by Charlotte Mendelson,
The Final Revival of Opal and Nev by Dawnie Walton,
The Island of Missing Trees by Elif Shafak,
The Paper Palace by Miranda Cowley Heller,
The Sentence by Louise Erdrich,
and This One Sky Day by Leonie Ross. Lydia, what are your thoughts on this year's long list?
Well, let me tell you, I was very excited by the announcement, I must admit. Maybe too excited, some would say. But yeah, I think that I was actually really surprised by the long list because last year it felt very Bernardine Evaristo inspired, if I may say so. It felt like everyone was on the same page, you knew what you were going to get when you read this long list. This year, it feels divided. And not in a bad way, but in a kind of, I feel like there is the, contemplate, fangirls, like Pandora Sykes.
Yeah.
And then there are that let's have some ghosts and horror stories, like Dorothy Coomson. I do not know how they are going to balance that in a short list.
Yeah, there's such, you used this word earlier, so I am stealing your word, but there is such an eclectic?
Yes.
Could be using a new word. There is such an eclectic array of books on this year's long list, which I think is really exciting, especially because I am your typical contemporary fiction fangirl. So it is kind of a push for me to explore other genres, which is great. Yeah, love that.
I think back to last year and I was like, yeah, it's a lot of contemporary fiction. It's a lot of fiction that kind of speaks to me as a, late 20s woman and all this, the things that kind of tick our boxes. But actually, the winner, Piranesi, was completely out of that box. It was just, I would never have guessed.
No.
In a million years.
Yeah, it was a surprise, wasn't it? I think a lot of people were shocked by that.
But having read it, it's fantastic and deserves its place. It's a tricky one. But this year, I was kind of like, okay, so I can see Ruth Ozeki. I can see Meg Mason. I can see Paper Palace, these kind of things. I'm like, yeah, totally. But then things like Remote Sympathy, I'm like, what? I would not have thought that would be on the list. The more different things like Salt Lick, I've never even heard of that, and to have that on there, I'm like, which judge was like, I am persevering with this one, you've got to read it.
Yeah.
I think it's totally interesting, but what about you?
So I was pleasantly surprised. Just to give our listeners background info, me and Lyd zoomed whilst watching the long list reveal.
Because we have such amazing lives.
Oh, honestly, I think it's such a cool thing to do. I'm sorry. We woke up, we got a brew in the morning, and then we jumped on Zoom and watched the long list being revealed at the same time, which was so much fun. I don't care how much of a loser we sound. Like, I loved it. So it was really nice to kind of get excited together. I don't think I've ever watched the reveal before. I've only ever just seen it uploaded on Instagram and been like, oh, that's exciting, but not actually had like the whole like reveal behind it. I really liked how they paced it and how it was like one author would reveal one book and then they would kind of briefly chat about that, and then the next one would be revealed, and it was like a whole kind of build up. And I know watching it, I was like, Sorrow and Bliss needs to be on there. I'm gonna throw hands if Sorrow and Bliss isn't on there.
Kick off if it wasn't there.
Honestly, when that came up, I was so happy. It's so deserving of, like, it needs to win. It's such an incredible book. It's like the most beautiful kind of portrayal of mental illness and relationships, and how mental illness can impact your relationship with your partner, with your family, with your friends, how you can totally kind of jeopardize your own life. It's just so beautifully written, and yeah, I'm just obviously obsessed.
Well, I didn't read Sorrow and Bliss until after the announcement, and then read it, and it is my first 5-star read of the year. I had 2 last year. But yeah, literally.
I throw them out, like, hand them out.
I had Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell.
Right.
And 11/22/63 by Stephen King. And
wow.
They're the only ones that made it.
Wow.
But yeah, so for that to have made it up there, it has to have moved me. And the fact that it's been included on this long list, I'm like, yes, it has to be, because when we talk about the Women's Prize, we talk about people that are pioneering for women, pioneering for feminism, pioneering for women in fiction. And this does all of that. All wrapped up in the complicated, complex issue that is womanhood. Like, it's not your simple, here's a woman in trouble, oh, she gets out of it. It's so layered. It's so kind of like, women are not perfect.
I'm also really enjoying this kind of new wave of books that we're seeing where women are allowed to have unlikable traits.
Yeah, to be
and to be messy and to be, you know, selfish and to be all these complex things that we're kind of, in the past, we've not been allowed to be that. I enjoyed, you know, its portrayal of mental illness, but I also, you know, enjoyed her character as a whole. Like, I just thought,
a person. She has a mental illness, and it does inform the way that she makes decisions, informs her actions and things like that. But most of all, she's just Martha. And you look at the people around her, Patrick and Ingrid, her sister, and things like that, and you look and you think, actually, the people that are around her are loving her just for being her, and the mental illness is part of her. So, and it's so good to see that. And I'm hoping that a lot more of this long list has that kind of theme of, like, women who are complex and different and 3-dimensional and aren't, you know, the person in the background or the abused, you know, all these stereotypes that seem to happen with women. I'm really hoping that this long list is, again, pushing that boundary and saying this isn't what a woman is. You know, the Women's Prize is not about just being a woman. It's being everything else. And you happen to be a woman at the same time. So I'm excited, but it does feel divided. Yeah,
there were some surprises on there.
Massive surprises.
Like some books that I hadn't heard of before at all. You know, like Salt Lick, I'd never heard of that. The Sentence, no, I had heard of The Sentence, but only through Simon Savage.
Yes.
Hadn't seen a huge hype around it. Flamingo, hadn't heard of that. Remote Sympathy, The Bread the Devil Needs.
Which I'm actually most excited for.
So excited to read that. It sounds amazing.
Which is why I love the Women's Prize, because you always get things that you're like, what is that? And you're like, this is the best thing I ever read.
I think the biggest surprise for me was the final revival of Opal and Nev.
Yeah.
Because I just think it's so different to anything that's been on there before. Yeah.
For those of you that don't know, the final revival of Opal and Nev is like a fake memoir about a young black woman who starts a band, is a vocalist in a band, and when she goes and performs alongside Nev, who is a British folk artist, and they go and they perform, and whilst they're performing, someone holds up a Confederate flag, and it's about what happens after that. Big ramifications, obviously. I did not think a music memoir, a music fate memoir, would ever reach the list of a Women's Prize long list.
But now I'm really
Purely
intrigued.
my own snobbishness, obviously.
I wouldn't have gone for that book, though.
No.
I wouldn't have. I mean, I hadn't read what it was about, but from the cover alone, and just from somebody saying...
Guitar, isn't it?
Yeah, from like the cover alone, I wasn't kind of drawn to it. Like the title wasn't kind of drawn to it. And it's not that there's anything wrong with those two things. It's just not something that I would typically go for.
No,
I'd only heard that it was kind of this book that had music in it. I wasn't had no other idea about it. But then when we read up on it after we saw the reveal, I was like, wow, okay, that sounds really interesting.
Yeah, because we both read the blurbs out to each other because we're them kind of people.
So extra.
And out of all of them, that was the one that kind of made me go, wow, I could read that. And I really liked the premise of Creatures of Passage as well. Like, I thought that was really interesting. But for me, like, I... unfortunately, we'll judge a book by its cover. And I saw the final revival of Opal and Nev, and it was on at Supposedly Fun's YouTube page, and he was like talking about how like great it was and he really enjoyed it and stuff, and I was like, yeah, that's fine, but it's a book about music and I hate books about music. Like, let me listen to the music, that's enough. I actually am really excited for it. I really am. I think that obviously anything with a Lift Shafak in is going to make me excited. Yeah. The fact that she was included, and again, talking about Simon Savage, it's his one, I think it's his favourite read of the year so far.
Wow, okay.
And I'm really excited to start it because we both read 10
minutes, 38 seconds.
And that was astounding.
It's a corker of a book.
She's amazing. And the fact that she like writes in, does she write in English, translate to Turkish, comes back to English? Yeah. She does some kind of like crazy translation situation. Yeah. That just makes her writing even better.
That's the only book I've read as well, and I've heard so many great things about her other books. But I think a lot of people have said that this book is really different. I mean, she's got like a fig tree as a narrator. like
protagonist.
Just, I think she's the only person bold enough to do that.
But then you look at the list, so we're talking about Alif Shafak being a bit diverse, a bit different with her narrative style. You look at The Book of Form and Emptiness by Ruth Ozeki. Yes. And we're talking about Voices from a Wilted Lettuce.
I'm obsessed. I want to read that. It looks huge, and I'm not quite sure that I am in the correct mindset to read a book that big after To Paradise.
Oh, God. It's an undertaking.
I mean, you have to cut out a good couple of weeks to get stuck into a book that big. Yeah. But it sounds amazing.
It does.
And I'm all for like these weird bloody narrators looking about. Let's give them a try.
Yes, and I think sometimes it's like things like the Women's Prize, the Booker Prize, even like Costa, stuff like that. Like when they release their long lists and short lists, I'm always happy to see something I don't know or something that's going to challenge me. Yeah. Like, because I think, I'd never read that. I've seen The Book of Form and Emptiness on Waterstone shelf many a time and gone, no. It just doesn't, I just don't think that would appeal to me. Yeah. But with that label on of Women's Prize have said it's good, to give it a go, it makes you more inclined to read it. Which
That's true. I
think it's a great thing, especially with these books that are sort of like changing formats and experimenting and making them different. I think it's really important that they're getting the chance to be sold and the chance to be read, but I'm really excited about those.
I actually listened to a really great episode on literary friction on their podcast. They had Ruth Ozeki on to talk about that book, and I was like, this definitely sounds too clever for me. Like when we read the blurb and when it was announced as part of the long list, I was like, now I really want to give it a go. Because when I was listening to their podcast, I was like, oh my gosh, this sounds like super intelligent. Like, am I just going to get completely lost in this? But I'm ready for it now, I think. Totally. Ready to give it a go.
Well, it's like with Piranesi last year. Like, I read a bit of Terry Pratchett. I love a bit of Terry Pratchett, but that's very like fantasy but tongue-in-cheek kind of. It's very kind of subversive in its style. Like, it's all about being funny,
Yeah.
rather than it being fantasy. And the same with the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams. Like, I love that, but that's kind of sci-fi fantasy, but it's also tongue-in-cheek, adult humour, stuff like that. So I'm not really like a full-on fantasy fan. So I was a bit like, oh. So I bought it, but I left it, and then it made the shortlist, and I was like, well, I have to read the shortlist. So then I read it, and it was just outstanding. Like, absolutely outstanding. It was not, I wouldn't describe it as a fantasy novel. Yes, it has tropes that are fantasy novel tropes, but it's so much more than that. This is what I think the Women's Prize particularly does really well. Here's a novel that you would have never read because it falls into this category or whatever, but actually it's going to relate to you on a level that you never thought it would. I'm actually really excited for Salt Lake by Lulu Allison. Like, I think that's going to be really interesting. Like, it's kind of like a climate change novel, and has a lot of dystopian vibes. I think it's going to be really telling about the time that we're living in at the minute. I haven't read any and been like, no, I don't like that at all. So it'll be interesting to see if there are any duds. Because I think there always is. There's always a few that don't land with you, just because no reader is the same, and, you know, you can't love everything. So it'll be interesting to see if when I read them, I'm like, I don't know why you picked that.
But if you had to pick, like, maybe 3 books that you're really excited to read from the Women's Prize long list, what would they be?
Well, The Island of Missing Trees by Elif Shafak. I can't.
What a shock! What a shock!
Deny it. I just love her and adore her, and I want us to be best friend.
I'm sorry. Did you get featured on her Instagram recently?
Me?
Did I see that?
I was reposted by Elif, as I like to call her.
Stop.
Yeah, she did.
Bestie club.
I've never been as close to a heart attack as I was when I opened my Instagram. It was like, Elif Shafak has reposted you, and I was like, oh, has she? And I look on, and my
just
face,
casual, you know.
My face is on her Instagram, and I did direct message her and thank her. She didn't reply, but no, she's a woman. But no, that was very exciting. But
she is really great at supporting bookstagrammers, you know.
Amazing. Same
like,
with
so
Hanya
great.
Nagahara, though.
Yes, yeah.
I always think, like, the authors that you want to support and you want to stick with are the ones that support you back.
Yeah.
So as bookstagrammers, as big readers, like, I'm sure some people that are listening to this haven't even opened a bookstagram account. Like, they just want to read good books. Yeah. When you know that the author is supporting you as much as they're supporting
when they really
themselves.
care about the readers, it's so lovely.
Like, and really care about the price of their books. Yeah. And where you can get them from, and about community engagement. You know, like, Elif Shafak will sit there and look at your post and say, these have made me smile, and repost them, and it's really nice. Like, I don't think that can be underestimated. No. Going back to predictions, I honestly think that Island of Missing Trees has to make it. If it doesn't, I'm going to cry. Yeah. I do also think The Sentence by Louise Erdrich will be prominent. Okay. Only because she is a Pulitzer Prize winner. Right.
What did she win the Pulitzer Prize for?
I think it was it The Night Watchman? The one most recent, I think.
I'm totally new to her, so I'm not sure.
She made, I can't remember what it was, but she won the Pulitzer Prize. Yeah.
She must be good then.
She's got to be reasonably good. I know there's a lot of buzz about her, and a lot of buzz about the book.
That's the one that's set in the bookshop, isn't it?
Yes, it's all based in the bookshop.
It's a ghost story vibes. Ghosty. Yeah, a bit ghosty.
Yeah, a bit of fun. So I definitely think that will make an appearance.
Also, I saw Simon Savage's, my stomach just rumbled, so I'm really sorry. Nice. But Simon Savage, I think he has the US cover that he showed in the video.
He does.
The US cover is so much better. Why is that? Like, some covers are so much better in America than they are here.
It drives me mad.
But then there's some covers that I actually prefer ours. It's just, can we not just have the same, guys? Come on, keep it fair.
The Vladimir, have you seen Vladimir by Gillian Jones?
I hate the US cover.
It's like
I hate
it. A headless, half-naked man.
Because it looks so like 50 Shades of Grey. Yeah. But the actual, like, the blurb of the book is so different to that. Yeah. Like, if I had seen the US cover in a bookshop, I wouldn't want to pick it up.
No, it looks
but
like
the UK cover, I was instantly drawn to it. I was like, that looks amazing. I need it right now. Yeah. I didn't even read up on the premise of it. I I just saw the cover and I was like, Knead.
This is what I mean though. Like, they were, and what I hate at the minute, and I know I'm probably going to get a load of DMs after this, I'm like, what do you like? But is the cartoon characters on the front of romance novels at the minute, like the love deception
and the love hypothesis.
What is going on with the characters? I don't need to see them.
No,
it looks like kids' books, and it's not. There's some sexy times in there. Sexy and times. I don't want to be seeing no cartoons doing that. You know what I mean? It's not even Jessica Rabbit cartoon. Full on Simpsons. I don't want Homer on the front of my thing. But yes, I think my final prediction would be The Book of Form and Emptiness by Ruth Sasaki, because there are too many sort of subversive differences in this long list for them not to include one like that, because it's so different in its form. Yeah. I think we're going to see something like that. What about you?
So, mine are Sorrow and Bliss, because I'll kick off if it's not on there. Yeah. I'll kick off if it doesn't win. No, I won't really, but...
Yeah, but you will.
It needs to win. It needs to win, I'm sorry. Sorrow and Bliss, The Island of Missing Trees, because I think it's really cool that she's got the whole kind of fig tree as a narrator. Yeah, it's a really bold choice. Yeah. And... yeah, I think it'd be interesting to see that on there. And I also wrote down Great Circle.
Really?
I've seen so much hype for Great Circle and so many people like just loving it.
Wasn't it nominated for the Booker?
Oh, I'm not sure.
I'm sure it was.
Maybe. But just because it's such like an empowering kind of feminist book, and I think kind of encapsulates what Women's Prize is all about, isn't it? You know, celebrating women and empowering women, and I think that would be such a great pick for it. Awesome. But then now you've got me thinking about, you know, different subversive. Yeah, there's so many like quirky reads on there this year that I'm like, oh, maybe they're not going to kind of go for books like that.
I think we're going to keep hitting this problem, right? On the one hand, you've got Great Circle, you've got Paper Palace, Sorrow and Bliss, like these feminist kind of Careless as well goes into that category. Feminist, lone female, kind of like going throughout life, trying to sort out their lives. The stuff that we're like, yes, about all the time. Yeah. Things that I think Pandora Sykes has nominated herself, along with probably Anita Sethi. She's probably done a few of these as well. Yeah. And then you've also got Build Your House Around My Body, Creatures of Passage, Salt Lick, which I think, and especially the sentence, Dorothy Coomson, I know for a fact she's put her hands all over this. Like, and I feel like there are two sections where it's literally like you've got your Pandora Sykes like novels, you've got your Dorothy Coomson novels. Yeah. And I just think that like that's great, but how are they gonna pick a winner? Yeah. When it feels slightly divided.
It feels like there's so much going on. Yeah. Yeah. That how can you possibly narrow those things down? Yeah. But like, how can you compare them all?
Yeah, you can't. And the problem is, like, last year, not to bang on about it, but like Bernardine Evaristo, I felt that she created a really sort of, there was a linear line throughout all of the books. Like you could tell, like even with things like Unsettled Ground, Detransition Baby, Transcendent Kingdom, there was always this sort of like through line of here is a person. Sometimes they were twins, which, you know, we know Bernardine loves. But there was like this kind of like duality. So throughout all of the books, it was, I am this person, but who else could I be? Or who else reflects me? Throughout the whole of the...
There's a lot of contemporary fiction on there last year, wasn't there? Yeah.
Massively. I think the only ones that kind of broke the mould were Piranesi, The Golden Rule by Amanda Craig, things like that were sort of breaking the boundaries of that. But mostly, it was, here's some contemporary fiction with women that are not who they say they are. Yeah. And that was the whole way through. It just felt that way. Whereas this one, if you told me to define it, like give me a one-line synopsis of what you think the Women's Prize is this year, and I'd be like, confused. About it. Yeah, it's great, and the great things, but it don't feel like it's a collective. Yeah. It's not a collection. You couldn't release this all as one because they're so different. Isn't necessarily a bad thing, but
I am really, really excited for the Bread the Devil Need.
Yes.
I'm really excited for that. And what was the other one that I was excited for? Is it written by Charlotte
Oh, The Exhibitionist by
The
Charlotte
Exhibitionist.
Mendelson.
Is that about an affair? I'm sure that was about an affair, and it was about queer relationships.
Yeah,
and I could be wrong, but I really think that was one that I was excited to read.
There is some nice LGBTQ plus representation this year, which I'm actually grateful for, because I know Bernardine Evaristo last year was like advocating for it. She obviously included Detransition Baby for trans representation and things like that. Not just because it's trans representation, because it's a brilliant novel, but I know that she was mindful of the fact that it was important that people
of course,
which, you know, we want to see with the Women's Prize, but it is nice to see that there are some more of that ilk this year. You know, it's not just that it's gone. We have got some really nice representation too, but it'd be nice to hear from like people at home. Like, do you think that the representation is like, do you see yourself in these books? Do you feel like they're missing something? I'd love to hear about that, because obviously as a white female heterosexual, I'm not the person to be talking about this, but I'd love to hear other people's voices on it and to say whether or not they feel represented. Yeah,
if you have any thoughts, we'd happily include them in the next episode. Maybe we could chat through them.
Absolutely.
If you want to message us on at A Pair of Bookends pod, that would be...
That's the podcast voice.
I'll slip it in there. Should we do some questions?
Let's do some questions.
Okay. So we asked on our Instagrams if you would like us to answer anything today, and there's potentially going to be nothing.
We're a bit last
quite
minute
ill-prepared today, yeah. I'm sorry, Lydia is much more prepared than I am.
But can I just tell everybody that this morning I had a root canal, which is never a good thing. And who thought that root canal before a podcast recording would be a good idea? I don't know. If I sound slightly slurred,
I think you sound great.
Do you think?
Yeah.
That's all right. It's just
like high as a kite.
Half my face doesn't work, and I'm seeing, two of you.
Seeing colours. Not seeing colours, hearing colours.
I'm hearing colours, and I'm seeing sound. So if I look back on this and I'm like, what was I saying?
I mean, you've articulated yourself much better than me.
I blame my dentist, but these are the things you have to do.
So I have one question.
Oh, nice.
Do you have any?
Hang on. She's asking me to be technical.
I'm sorry.
Who's ever thought to be technical? You know what? Not even one person cares.
Guys, come on.
Then again, it is 3:30.
We were very late, We were very late in asking these. But we do have an interesting one from At the Return of Sally Pat. That is such a funky little username.
Sally Pat has returned.
Exactly, yeah.
Where did she go?
Can we get the prequel, Sally Horn? What's going on? So her question is, are book awards / prizes a good thing? How can one book be chosen above all others?
That's a question and a half. I see why she went away. Thank you for returning, Sally Pie. I appreciate it. No, I have always been an advocate for a bookish prize.
Yeah.
I must admit.
Yeah.
I'm not one of the people that's like, you shouldn't do it or anything like that. I love book prizes because, just because of the things that I've said before, they open me up to books I would never have read.
Yeah.
I would probably, on this long list, I would probably read maybe 4, maybe 5 of them at the most, of things that, because I already own, I think 5, and they're the ones that I would have picked. I wouldn't have then gone on to pick things like Remote Sympathy or the Book of Form and Emptiness. Like, I just wouldn't have done it. And the fact that the Women's Prize, the Pulitzer Prize, they say, here are some really good books you should check out.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. However, I do think that some of the smaller publishers like Seren Books in Wales, I've been talking with them, they're great publishers. They're a lot less likely to get a book shortlisted for a prize.
Yeah.
And why?
Which is such a shame, because there's so many great ones.
But you have to pay.
Yeah.
You have to pay to get your books.
Yeah, it's an accessibility thing, and I think that's quite frustrating, because it should be open to, I don't know, I feel like there's a lot of kind of like loopholes that people have to jump through to be even considered for these kind of lists.
Massively.
Which is a shame, because, they're obviously missing out on a lot of things. And I know they have to do it to try and like narrow it down slightly, maybe. I do think that you're potentially missing out on a lot of brilliant talent.
Oh, hugely. actually.
And a lot, it also widens up stories that need to be told.
Yeah, and a lot of the smaller publishers will take a punt on books that necessarily don't fit the form that certain larger publishing houses would take a risk on. Yeah, and it's really nice to see. And I think it's a shame that a lot of the time when you look at the long lists of prizes, you don't see a lot of the smaller publishing houses, and it can be cliquey in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, I see that,
this is a really cool book and everyone's got it. Last year, I'm sorry, but no one is talking about this by Patricia Lockwood. I just need a minute.
Got a personal vendetta against that book.
I loved the second half. The first half, maybe,
I've seen so many mixed reviews on this book.
It's worth a read just to have your own opinion on it. The fact that made, I think it made the Booker, I think it made the women's, it made, a group of other things.
Yeah. And it's if I'm being honest, I think if our friend Meg at Meg in a Book saw that I'd bought that book, she would...
I think she'd come around the house and burn it down.
I think she would. And I was so curious to read it, but I'm actually frightened of her seeing me read it. I think I'll have to
lend you my copy so we're not funding it. This is the thing, the ones that you've seen multiple times, it's is it popular or is it just cool? Yeah. Is it cool to be subversive and different? And oh wow, this book is making waves, and we're gonna put it at the forefront of our shortlist. That's fine. Yeah. But why? Tell me why, and give me justification when there are some fantastic books from the smaller publishers that could really do shout it out.
Yeah, that's true.
I think prizes have their place. Mm-hmm. It shouldn't rule your reading. It shouldn't make you feel like I have to read those books because they're nominated all the time. Yeah. And it shouldn't make you feel like because you didn't like them and they were nominated for the Pulitzer that somehow your reading is wrong. So I enjoy a prize. I love getting involved in the, let's Zoom and watch it at 9 o'clock in the morning.
I do think, though, that the Women's Prize is my favourite book prize.
Same.
I know that the Booker is probably the most popular, maybe.
I would say so, yeah.
But for me, I get the most excited about the Women's Prize.
Yeah. I mean, I always like to read the winner of the Booker. So I read The Promise by Damon Galgut this year. That won last year. Again, fantastic book.
Still need to read it.
So good.
And it's out in paperback now, isn't it?
Yeah. Is it the same cover?
Yes, I think so. And I think it's got, what do you call those pages where it's got one page shorter than...
Oh, yeah, with a strip.
Yes. Yeah, I think it's got one of those.
With winner of the Book Prize on it.
Yeah,
I like it.
I think it's got one of those, isn't it?
So I read that, and I read, and you read At Night, All Blood is Black.
Yes, that was the international one
last year.
It's a really great book. It's fantastic. Chaotic energy all round, but very good.
I mean, if anyone can explain to me the last two chapters.
Please, I beg you. Please. Seriously, DM us at A Pair of Bookends pod.
Because I thought Hannah would help. She didn't. We both were confused.
I begged everybody.
But yeah, so I always try and read the winners. I always feel like it's worth giving them a go. Yeah. But I wouldn't go out and buy the whole international Booker list. And I wouldn't buy the whole Booker list. But for me, the Women's Prize, being a woman, wanting to read more and support more women in fiction and women authors, it's a great opportunity to kind of explore that. Yeah. And it's great that there's all these new authors, and it's not just British authors, it's not just American authors, European authors. There's African authors, and I think there's a couple too this year from New Zealand, which is lovely. Wow. So it really opens your reading taste, I think. But I do listen to those that aren't big fans of the prizes, because I think people have very valid reasons for why they're not
totally.
And yeah, I find it interesting when people are like, I won't read that because it's been nominated, or because it's, it's not getting the same hype or whatever. I think it's really interesting. But
I do also think it's interesting that she asked, how can one book be chosen above all others? Because I think, like we were saying earlier, how on earth do you compare the books on this list that are so completely different?
No, it's take two, for example. So let's have a look. So Great Circle by Maggie Shepard. You compare that to The Book of Form and Emptiness by Ruth Oseki, right? One is just about a woman circumnavigating the globe in an airplane, and then a woman then kind of playing her
in like a biopic,
so-and-so
wasn't
later.
it? Yeah.
In a biopic. And the other is about a man grieving the loss of someone and having to talk to a wilted lettuce. So I think, like, you know what, you can't compare.
No.
You can't. And I think that it is difficult in that situation.
Yeah.
I don't envy the judges, although
No.
I would like to be one.
Yeah. If there's a spot, guys,
Pair of Bookends.
DM us at the Pair of Bookends pod.
But, you know, I don't envy them because it is difficult. And I think that sometimes you just have to go with your gut.
Yeah.
So what has moved you the
Yeah.
most? Like, for me, the most moving book this year that I've read is Sorrow and Bliss because it stuck with me.
Yeah.
I've read 2 books since and neither of them have compared.
No.
In that feeling of, like, I want to talk about it with everybody.
Yeah.
Like, the minute I walked in this house, I was like, hi, Hannah, Sorrow and Bliss. Like, I can't stop thinking about Martha.
Yeah.
And so
And
I think...
Patrick, love you.
Patrick, if you can hear me, my number is. Yeah, so I think it's...
Oh, God, imagine, I've just thought an adaptation.
Well, I mean, I'm an actor.
My God, Lydia, you put yourself forward for Martha.
We'd have to fight, though, because who's going to be Martha and who's going to be Ingrid?
Oh.
Because they're both excited. Well...
I think Ingrid's a cool character to play.
I think Ingrid, though. Let's face it, I'm the one with the children.
Stop.
But anyway, for those of you that haven't read Sorrow and Bliss, it's very confusing, this conversation.
I know, sorry. But also just a quick thought on casting. What do you think of Andrew Garfield as Patrick?
Oh.
Spanner in the works.
I know that you can't see my face, but right now I'm just on a different planet. Yes, 100%. Please, yes, please.
Yes.
Please, yes, please.
Andrew Horn.
I also would love to see Ben Whishaw in it somehow, just because I'm obsessed with him at the minute after watching This Is Going to Hurt. But yeah, I think you have to go by your instincts.
Yeah.
So if your instinct is the one that I'm thinking of feeling is this book, you have to go with that. And sometimes it's not about the content or the form or, you know, how clever it is. Sometimes it's just about, you know what's moved you.
Yeah.
What's made me think about it all the time, what's made me want to go back to it. I couldn't put Sorrow and Bliss down.
No.
I was holding it everywhere I went.
So
like,
beautiful.
I need to carry on reading it. I needed to be on my own in a room, quiet, so I could be with her.
I think as well, like, it's a book that kind of makes you feel seen. I think I don't think I've ever read a book that's portrayed mental illness so well.
Mm-mm.
Like, I was reading it and going, that is how it feels.
Yeah, the
like that is
of it.
that is how I feel. That is what is going on in my brain.
Yeah.
At any given time. Like, I really felt represented in that book.
Yeah,
I was
so
moving.
That's it. And the fact that, I mean, the thing that moved me most was when this isn't a podcast on Sorrow and Bliss, I'm sorry guys, but I have to say it, is there's a moment where Martha throws a hairdryer at Patrick's face, and it's uncomfortable and difficult to read, but I have been the person that has wanted to lash out like that, that has lashed out like that, and has been angry and furious, and has looked at myself and gone, I don't know why I did that. Nowhere in contemporary fiction so far have I read a portrayal of mental health issues as accurate as I read that.
Oh my God, yeah.
And it's the selfishness without being selfish. Mm-hmm. You just become selfish.
Yeah.
It's the anger, the hate, the loathing, but also the kind of like, I'm just getting on with things. I'm absolutely fine. Yeah. But just not being okay and everyone knowing it. And nobody I know other than Meg Mason has written something so well documented that is so accurate. And I was reading it, I was going, there's me. And yeah, I adored it.
Me too.
I adored it.
I think we've been rambling on enough, to be honest. So, Lydia, what have you been enjoying recently?
What have I been enjoying? Well, I did finally finish This Is Going to Hurt by Adam Kay, the adaptation of his novel. It was astounding. Yeah. Astounding. Very difficult, so be careful. Lots of trigger warnings. But astonishing.
Yeah.
Loved it. Absolutely loved it.
Such a good adaptation as well.
Amazing adaptation.
And he was brilliant. Ben Whishaw was brilliant as Adam Kay.
So yeah, absolutely fantastic. And then a book I've read recently that I loved, other than Sorrow and Bliss, which I feel we've talked about enough, is A Door Behind a Door by Yelena Moskovich. It's published by Influx Press and it's gifted to me, thankfully. And it's a Ukrainian-born author, so, you know, important to read and support these people at this time. But she has written a kind of absurdist, sort of Beckett-inspired novel that is just fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, Lydia was talking to me about this book before we started recording, and honestly, I am sold. I am completely sold.
It's got everything you want in it. It's got
does.
LGBTQ elements. It's got feminism. It's got lots of diverse casting. It's just a wonderful book. And if you love a linear narrative from A to B with one protagonist, you're going to struggle because it's all over the place.
Yeah.
But if you're up for some kind of different reading, if you're up for something that's going to challenge you, give it a go. It took me a night to read it. It was that easy. And just loved it. I loved it. I loved how it was unapologetically gross. Unapologetically a bit violent. It was just everything that I want to get my teeth into.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. What about you, Hannah? Have you got anything that you've been loving recently?
Yes, I was part of, there's an amazing company called Tandem Collective, and they love book bloggers and we love them.
We do.
They do really great, amazing things. They do read-alongs, they do watch-alongs, and I was on their read-along for What a Shame by Abigail Bergstrom. I think that's how you say your name. But it was brilliant. So much so that I was just really excited to be creating content for it. And it's just a really, really great book about dealing with grief and trauma and the loss, like the unexpected loss of a relationship, and trying to navigate your 20s and creative careers.
Okay,
and
where do I buy this?
and wild, I can't even say the word, ayahuasca ceremonies.
Oh,
I don't know how, it's like the drug that people take, and it's done a lot in it's not like a Western medicine, it's from somewhere else, but it's really strange. It's quite a quirky thing that a lot of very out there yogi people on Instagram, I've heard them talking about in their circles.
Me 2 paracetamols and
No, they do this ceremony, and it's I mean, I hope this isn't offensive in any way, because I know it's not. It's part of a
tradition.
What's the word? It's part of a tradition from somewhere else, and I really should have done my research on it before speaking about it. But it's from somewhere else, and they have like shamans that give these ceremonies, and it's supposed to kind of clear out old trauma.
Oh wow!
And
I could do something like that.
You and me both, gal. But it was just such an amazing book, and just. I'm such a lover of contemporary fiction, and it was really brilliant.
Wow.
And it was her debut novel, and
wow, really?
Yeah, and it was astounding. So would really recommend that, and also would really recommend. There's a great podcast called Book Off, or is it Do Book Off? I don't know. I think it's called Book Off.
Book Off.
But I really love it. And there was a great episode with Marian Keyes and Nina Stibbe, who I thought was Nina Stibb, but it's Nina Stibbe apparently. Not that matters. But this episode was so brilliant. It was proper like women empowering women. They couldn't get enough of each other. Yes. Like it was like. I could listen to anything Marian Keyes says. Yeah. Like, her voice is gorgeous.
Have you seen her on the Sky Arts Book Club?
No, I've not.
Guys, if you haven't watched it, watch the episode of Sky Arts Book Club with Marian Keyes in it.
I need
She's
to.
She's talking about grown-ups, the amazing novel.
Which I still haven't read yet.
Gosh,
I know.
Although, you know, the family tree is needed. But she is so eloquent, so funny.
Yes, she is. She's hilarious.
She's like a naturally funny person.
She is.
I'm always jealous of people that are naturally funny.
And her voice is so like sing-songy, like it's just so like light and nice. And I just loved hearing her talk to Nina Stivvy about, like, she was just waxing lyrical about Nina's work and really like just bigging each other up. It was the host kind of had to intervene and be like, guys, we do actually have to get on with the podcast now, because they were just but it was just so great, and I loved it. I love like women lifting each other up, and let's celebrate each other's work. Like, so yeah, I was all for that. Would really recommend that episode specifically, and that podcast. But yeah, that episode was just amazing. And I think that's all we've got time for today.
I think it is.
Got a very exciting author event to go to this evening, which I'm so excited for, but we're not going to reveal what it is because you'll have to wait and wait for our post on next month's book.
You'll
at A Pair of Bookends Pod.
Yeah, have a little look. Check out our Instagram, because I'm sure we'll be announcing things soon and revealing some
lots of exciting things happening.
But yeah, we're very excited about today.
We are indeed. So thank you for listening to this minisode of A Pair of Bookends. Keep an eye on our social media for our next book announcement, and please like, subscribe, rate and review our podcast, as it helps other bookends to find us. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
And enjoy whatever it is you're doing for the rest of the day. Bye.
Bye.